So what we are going to talk about today is just surveys. Pretty basic, right? But we need to get the basics right. And the thing that we are going to put a little bit of an emphasis on is common sense. Common sense is something that market research don't have. And what we need to do is to have user common sense. Why do we need to have user common sense? Because before data, you have actually respondents. Before answers, you have questions, right? So if you get a better consumer engagement, you get better data. If you get better data, you can get more powerful business recommendation from us. And if you get better recommendations from us, you can grow your brands better. So it's really important to put usage and the user experience at the core of what you do. There is two traps that market research, at least in my opinion, has been falling into for the past 10 years, right? Probably 10 years ago, there was someone like me in the same kind of room telling you exactly what I'm going to tell you today. Yeah, so hopefully you've not been working for 10 years in market research. The thing is, the first trap is to think that market research is not biased, right? Market research is biased because we use different methodologies to do different things, right? So compare face-to-face to mobile, very different things, very different answers, very different audience. And the second trap is to think that we still have time, right? We need to still catch up with mobile, and mobile is 10 years old. So we have a year, or maybe more like a few weeks to catch up on mobile. So we can do what we were talking about yesterday. We can experiment about the new technologies that are maturing right now. Mobile is a very mature technology, and we are starting to see new technologies coming in, right? So we need to board the train of new technologies, but we also need to board the train of mobile. So we'll ask the question again, though we had an answer yesterday 150 times, right? Actually, the global average for that, how many times do you check your phone every day, is about 85 times. What's really important to realize is that you guys don't really realize that you're using your phones half of the time, okay? I can see some of you are users right now. So it's kind of a drug addict kind of behavior, right? We don't realize we are using it, but we are using it, yes? So the user is really something really important we need to focus on. We just talked about consumer experience, user experience. It's exactly the same. So we need to stop having our researcher hats on all the time and to put the user hat on. And then time also. We didn't really talk about time, right? But it's really an increasingly precious commodity, okay? The average interaction with your phone is just a few seconds, right? And again, you don't realize it half of the time, right? But it's really, really important. We are more and more running after time, right? And time has changed us, and the mobile phone has changed the way we see time, okay? So we've been basically not really seeing all the signals that mobile has been giving us for the past 10 years. And we've been, I would say, snoozing the alarm a little bit more in Asia, right? Because the share of web traffic, I think this is a really good stat to show that we live in an all-mobile kind of world. The share of web traffic is now more mobile than PC-driven, okay? And that happened just last year in November 2016, but it happened much before for the Asia region, okay? So online is mobile, okay? Online is not PC anymore, at least for the majority. So we were talking about marketing before, right? And a lot of presentations about marketing yesterday. And we realized the neuroscience, for example, was showing that. Richard from L'Oreal yesterday was also showcasing that. Ads need to grab our attention in seconds, right? But so are surveys. Okay, so again, I'm going to talk about surveys. Sorry, it's pretty basics, but we do need to do the basics right. And the problem with that is you see a lot of dropouts as soon as you click on the link, right? The first page is actually the page where you have the highest dropout rate, okay? Why is that? Just because it's not engaging enough, right? So we need to make sure we engage respondents a lot. So I'm going to talk for a minute. Let's stop and talk about the length of interview. This is a sacrosanct figure for all market researchers, right? Oh my God, it's too long. It's like 40 minutes long, 1 hour long, even 20 minutes. This is way too long, right? The problem is we talk about the length of interview, but we don't talk about the underlying measures behind that, right? And that's what's important. What's important about the length of interview is not the length of interview. What's important is your data quality, right? Is the way you engage with customers. So to me, the two things that are really important is the fact that after about 30 questions, people are just not reading the questions. What do you think of the quality of your answers if you don't even read the question? Okay. And the last thing is that pretty obviously you have a lot of straight liners, right? People just answering the same because they just want to get to the end of the survey. Yeah. And you can see here, actually you cannot really see because it's not super clear, but 30 questions is, you know, the key moment where people are actually starting to answer the same and to drop out, etc. 30 questions, I will insist on that, is very generous, okay? Google, and I trust Google because I do believe that they are pretty expert at all online stuff. Google is saying, Google surveys, 10 questions, that's it. So at Kantar we say 30 questions. So thank you very much. So with all that in mind, this time, being conscious of time and the length of interview, what do you think is by far the #1 reason why mobile survey users are giving up? And on that, I will leave Sid to answer.
Thank you. So let's find out what's the #1 reason why mobile survey users are giving up. Our research on research contradicts the popular belief that length of interview is the most important. It shows that survey design has the most important impact on the dropouts, whether positive or negative. So if your survey design is good, then you have a good completion rate, but if it's not, then you have a poor completion rate. Don't get me wrong, length of the interview is still crucial to be on mobile, but survey design is paramount. If you think good design is expensive, you should look at the cost of bad design. What I'm essentially trying to say here is, let's not lose the forest for the trees. What we always have to think about our opportunity cost when we are looking at mobile audiences. So what does a 100% mobile compatible survey give us? On our panel, it clearly shows it gives us a quarter of improvement on feasibility, completion, and reach. By adopting mobile technology, mobile compatibility, and intelligent component design leads to a better completion rate, making it more affordable and quicker survey results while delivering better insights. So if you look at the graph here, you know, by adopting mobile surveys, if you're good to Lightspeed, you can even get 40% cheaper surveys, and yet delivering better insights at the same time. So are we adapting? Respondents of today are suffering from mistakes of yesterday's researchers. So are we learning? Basically, let's be honest to ourselves. We are all guilty of taxing our respondents by not coming out of our comfort zone. We are still living in the past. We are still offering or serving offline/PC questionnaires to mobile audiences. So let me introduce you to our top 3 culprits on survey design: the grid, the tick box, and the drop down. 3 of them account for the maximum possible dropouts when it comes to survey design. Grids make it very challenging because they involve a lot of horizontal or vertical scroll, which is cumbersome for the respondent, hence they give up, which is strongly linked to our survey enemy #4, which is the open ends. So let's stop and think, what's the purpose of open-end questions? I will let Vivian answer that.
Thank you, Sid. I like open ends. I don't like grids. I really don't like grids. Even dynamic grids, I still don't like it. So let's stop and think for a minute, right? You have 2 kinds of open ends. You have the very classic kind of open ends where you're just trying to get a brand or something like this, but spontaneous brand awareness, for example. And then you have the second type of open end, which is where you deep dive into a topic and you want the respondent to tell you more and more about a particular topic, right? So to the first type of open end, again, we need to drop the researcher hat and think as a respondent. And you have very, very simple tips that actually make your data much, much better. So a classic example here is don't be greedy, right? You know that people are not going to give you 10 brands for a spontaneous awareness, super boring question, right? That's a fact, okay? But the problem is if you do that, on average, you'll get 2 brands, okay, on average. If you just reduce and ask with 5 open text box, you'll get 3 brands, okay? Imagine just the impact it has on your KPI, right? We were talking about the KPI yesterday. Your brand is the 3rd brand. So if I take the example of Lego yesterday with the 2 restaurants, I don't know if you remember that, and the first brother who was like proposing all the dishes, as many dishes as possible, because he wanted to attract as many people as possible, but he had a lot of logistical issues, etc. And then the other brother opening a restaurant as well, but focusing on a few dishes only and capping it to 20 dishes, okay? Just replace dishes by questions, and there you go. The problem, the end of the story, was the first brother actually closed down shop, right? Because it was really logistically too difficult to propose so many dishes. So that's what's going to happen to, hopefully not Kantar, but some market research agencies if we continue doing this kind of stuff. And then you have the more interesting topic of true opponents, right? What do you think about this, why, etc. Again, not super intuitive to use an open text box to say that, right? So I'm trying to look for the guys from Skim this morning because you guys were presenting opponents. So what do, you know, if you want to tell something more via mobile to people, right? You don't really WhatsApp, you don't text. What you do is you Skype, you FaceTime, right? So just leverage that and ask video opponents, okay? Simply by asking video opponents, it's the same question. You get 6 times more content, right? And then on top of that, you can also tag on everything that we talked about before, which is sentiment coding and you know, seeing the environment, people in the background, etc., etc. So this is something that is really powerful as well, just as an output, because you put the consumer in front of the brand in the boardroom, right? And believe me, you cannot question the data, right? It's a consumer talking to you directly, right? There is no point questioning the data. You have the proof that the guys are talking. And then back to the user experience, right? No researcher hat today. The user experience is pretty simple. What you're just doing is you're leveraging the native capabilities of your mobile phone, right? You take pictures every day, you take videos every day, you chat every day. So you just propose that to the respondent. And suddenly you will see that the LOI might actually increase because just to ask a video opponent question, you'll have 4 screens. But people don't care about this because it's very natural, right? It's the very natural primary environment for the respondents to do that. And then if you push the logic further, right, what else do you do? So I was talking about FaceTime or Skype, but you chat a lot, right? A lot. You use Facebook Messenger, you use WhatsApp, etc., etc. WeChat. So what you can do is just, we were talking about it yesterday, leveraging the native capabilities, again, of these apps, not your phone. Yeah? So you can completely leverage bots to ask the questions that, 10 years ago an interviewer was asking, or that you're still trying to put into a survey link online, right? But this is much more natural for a respondent because we are very comfortable chatting via messaging apps. We are not so comfortable because we are dropping out 40% of us at the first page of a classic online survey, right? So as we speak, we have a Kantar bot speaking in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Thailand to consumers. And I'm not saying that to sell the bot. I'm saying that because there is also a misconception with bots, right? And with technology in general, that there is a barrier in terms of languages, yeah? There is a barrier in terms of languages because if I talk to Siri with my French accent, Siri is going, sorry, Vivian, can you repeat it? Yeah? If my wife is talking with a Singaporean accent, it's even worse. But the thing here is that you're not talking, right? You're just chatting. So even if I do a spelling mistake, my phone, again, native capability of the phone, is going to correct me and correct the misspelling. So this is very easy to put together. So let's stop and think again. And I will pass back to Sid. Should mobile audiences be treated the same as others? And Sid will present a little case study from Lightspeed.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do, we wanted to challenge this. We wanted to experiment, So we did an experiment here by recruiting almost identical mobile and PC audiences. So similar age groups, similar demographics, urban, suburban, and similar broad attitude towards music. So this was a music-based case study, which we wanted to basically analyze that are we getting different survey results. So let's look at the data which we got. Despite the overall surface similarities, when you dig deep into the data, you're able to capture deeper underlying profiles, hence revealing a diverse audience. So if you look at it, the mobile audience in the blue is giving you a totally different opinion to the PC audience in gray. So while the mobile audience is saying they like house, reggae, rap music, the PC audience is totally giving you a different opinion, even though they are all both of the same demographics. So what do we learn from here? We learn from here that by including mobile audiences, you get richer, broader, and more meaningful data into your insights. So let me leave you with a question I hope I have already answered. Should PC audiences be treated the same as mobile?
So this is actually not very simple to answer because the answer is yes and no, right? So why am I saying that? I think if hopefully you've listened to us, if you have a mobile-first mentality and a user-first mentality, then you will think about designing your questionnaire properly for mobile-first. And what applies for mobile, it will be no problem for PC, right? The problem is that for the past 10 years, we've done the opposite. We've tried to move from PC to mobile, yeah? So listen to what Mark Zuckerberg was saying 10 years ago and saying bye-bye PC, just mobile, yes? Don't listen to me, only. So it's just about the packaging, right? And there is a lot of things that are going into this. It's also about the visuals, right? We are very, very visual people. So that you have your survey designed for mobile, and then you let the machine do the rest for PC. So we use what we call dynamic design or intelligent survey design. And then it will just change, you can see on the screen here, a little bit the layout of how the question is asked, how the answers are displayed, etc., etc. So what's important really is to leave the choice to the users to use the device they want, right? Don't force them to go one way or another, except if you want to do geo-triggered surveys and things like this, things that can be done only on mobile for now. So I have another example here, but that's just to show you the display. And then the last one, I find this one quite interesting because it's all about behaviors, right? And the psychology behind how do we react naturally to the screen, okay? So we are very touch, right? Touch screen, and we are not in a point and click era anymore. But the thing is, if you're on your PC, at least for now again, you don't touch the screen. You still use the mouse, right? So in that example, you can see that for mobile, you would still have a wheel to choose the answer, and then on PC, it will be a simple point and click, right? This is very simple, but it needs to be integrated in everything we do. Everything should flow. So again, back to the scheme example, it's just about swiping, point and click, touch, and drag and dropping and things like this. It needs to be very intuitive, otherwise all your answers are going to be biased. And because we are true to what we are saying, shorter, sharper presentation as well. Any questions?
Look, great. I think there's a question there from Deepak.
Hi guys. In your experience, given that, let's say the telecom infrastructure in various countries tends to vary massively, let's say in Indonesia versus in India versus Singapore, have you found any, have you done sort of, designing questionnaires or content based on a standard infrastructure that is available or likely to be available in a country, or is it still more of a single method but still pushed across the same countries?
That's a very good question, because I think especially in Asia we are really suffering from that, especially when you do multi-country projects. Obviously doing something in Myanmar or Singapore would be completely different. And it's not just about the device, the hardware, but it's also about the software, right? You have slightly different behaviors on Android versus iOS, for example. So what we need to do is to be conscious of that, and also the data usage, right? People are not conscious about data usage in Singapore so much, but in Myanmar, the first question that will pop up is, oh, but it will cost me $1 if I take your survey because I'm using my data plan, right? So you need to be very localized. So what we are showcasing today is something that works in most markets, but in some markets you need to adapt locally, right? So for countries that are less developed with less smartphones, you could do SMS kind of surveys. That works really well. But SMS survey, 5 questions. Yeah. But I think it's a very valid question today that is probably not going to be valid tomorrow, right? Because the smartphone penetration is really booming, and that's not going to be a big issue soon.
All right. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Siddharth
Thank you.
and Vivian.